Congratulations on Bessie.
Councilor Susi, can you hear us?
Go though, isn't it, Dad?
Yeah.
Good for her though, huh?
Yeah. Some family in the area there,
You
so.
do, well, that's good.
This one.
Great. What is she gonna study?
She's starting with psychology, and she's looking at. You know,
Go on.
sometimes those
Councilor Susi, can you hear us?
I know.
kids have to just continue to love them and.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We just can't see him.
Yeah, you just can't see
We
him.
just can't see him. So. He's on by voice only.
Okay.
Okay, well, I mean, like,
We don't have visual.
He can see him.
What's
okay.
he wearing?
Why don't we go live here and we'll kick the meeting off and,
We'll see if we can get that to come up.
proceed. Okay, so, the hour being 7:03 PM on Monday, February 27th, 2023, I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting. Before we go any further, though, I'd like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We are joined this evening by our recording secretary and city clerk, Katie Gargano, and I'd ask her to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Here.
Counselor Susi. Counselor Littman,
Here?
Counselor Haynes,
Here.
Counselor Felch,
Here.
Mayor Hosmer.
Present. We're also joined at council table tonight by Kirk Beatty, our city manager. Glenn Smith, our finance director, is handling some of our AV responsibilities. Agenda item 7, which is the regular city council meeting minutes of February 13th, 2023, which were distributed to the city council on February 17th, 2023. And with no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted as distributed. Item number 8, under consent and action items. These are recommendations for appointments to boards and commissions in the city. The appointment subcommittee met on February 23rd, 2023, interviewed several candidates for appointment or reappointment to the city's boards and commissions. The appointment subcommittee strongly recommends the appointment of the following individuals for the terms shown. Jim Regato, reappointment as a regular member of the Licensing Board to a term expiring at the end of March 2026. John Purley, reappointment as a regular member of the Laconia Board of Trustees to a term expiring at the end of March 2026. Marie Bradley, reappointment as a regular member of the Library Board of Trustees to a term expiring at the end of March 2026. Bruce Kneuer, reappointment as an alternate member of the Library Board of Trustees to a term expiring at the end of March 2024. Sally Sessler, appointment as a regular member of the Laconia Board of Trustees to a term expiring at the end of March 2024. Mitch Hamill, reappointment as a regular member of the Parks and Recreation Commission to a term expiring at the end of March 2026. Nate Guerrette, Assistant Public Works Director, appointment as an alternate on the Lakes Region Planning Commission, Transportation Advisory Committee to a term expiring at the end of June 2025. Right now, I'll be looking for a motion to move to approve the appointment or reappointment of candidates to the city's boards and commissions as presented and as recommended by the Appointments Subcommittee. So made by Councilor Haynes, seconded by Councilor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Counselor Susi. Yes. Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes,
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
That's 5 votes in the affirmative. Motion passes, and on behalf of the City Council, I'd like to thank all of citizens who are appointed or reappointed to boards and commissions, and thank them for their service. Agenda item 8B, adopt ordinance 2023-97, adding a new chapter, ward lines in the City of Laconia Code. At the November 2nd, 2021 municipal election, voters voted in favor to remove the ward lines from the city charter and place them into the City of Laconia Code, allowing the city council to adjust the ward boundary lines for redistricting purposes. The city is required to review and adjust its ward boundaries if needed after the release of the 10-year federal census data. Adoption of the attached ordinance 2023-97 is the final piece to this action. November 22nd, 2021, the mayor signed the charter change reflecting the election results. At the December 13th, 2021 city council meeting, the city held a public hearing and subsequently approved the new redistricting map. The new ordinance to include the ward descriptions in the City of Laconia Code was not completed and was discovered in the fall of 2022 when the city clerk was working on state elections. So right now, based on that, we'd be looking for a motion to move that the city council authorizes the mayor to sign the attached ordinance 2023-97, ward lines as presented. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there further discussion on this matter? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie? Counselor Littman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
That's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 9, citizens' comments for matters not on the agenda. If any citizens present tonight would like to speak to matters not listed on tonight's agenda, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing none, we'll move right along then to item number 13, which is public hearings. Under item 13A, public hearing, resolution 2023-02, request to submit a grant application to and accept grant funding from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund for wastewater and stormwater asset management. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the February 15th, 2023 Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up later on this evening under unfinished business. I'd like to open the public hearing on this matter at 7:10 p.m. If anyone would like to speak to that matter, now would be the appropriate time. I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:10 p.m. as well. Item number 13B, public hearing, resolution 2023-03, relative to the acceptance of the New Hampshire Department of Safety, Homeland Security, and Emergency Management Grant in the amount of $20,948.28. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the February 15th, 2023 edition of Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. This matter may also be taken up under unfinished business this evening, and I'd like to open the public hearing on this matter at 7:11 p.m. Anyone wishing to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing no one has stepped forward to speak, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:11 p.m. Moving along to item number 15, which is the mayor's report. Just 2 things I'd like to mention. One sort of on the recreation, sports and recreation side, one on the business side. As many of you already know, we have 2 outstanding basketball teams at the high school this year. First of all, we have the girls team who's made the tournament. They are 14-4, which is a particularly strong season, any way you look at it. They are to be congratulated, and I'd like to wish them best of luck as they start the tournament, I believe, on Wednesday. Secondly, we have the boys team at 17 wins and 1 loss, number 1 seed in Division II this year. I believe they are at home on Friday. They have a bye in the first round, so I'm encouraging everyone to show up and watch a really talented, well-coached team play. It's really both boys and girls basketball have been very exciting this year. Best of luck to the boys as well. On the business side of things, I would like to bring to your attention and ask the city manager to pass out an item, which is what I have here, and this has to do with, I'll wait till everyone gets his copy. Counselor Susie will send this along by email to you, so you have some light reading while you're away. This has to do with surplus property appraisal report and what has been referred to as the former Lakeshore Spur, a 3.63 acre area of state-owned discontinued rail corridor, part of the Concord-Lincoln Corridor in Laconia. If you open up, and I would encourage the city manager, if you haven't already, perhaps to post this on the website, so if people want to look, they can get some sense. But this is right along Union Avenue and Paugus Bay. There is a stretch of abandoned railroad that it is really touches probably 4 parcels, even though there are 5 parcels here. Does it go across the street? I guess it does on the bridge, doesn't it?
It goes across the street, yes.
Bridge, yeah, so it's
Yep.
really 5 parcels then, right, that we're
Yes,
talking about
5.
here?
Yep.
The parcel that is of particular interest, I think, to the city is what's called Segment 4. And that abuts the intake for the city water. And in discussions with Ben Crawford and the city manager and Counselor Susie, we've talked about the need to protect the inflow of city water there. And if it became available, if the state were decided surplus and it became available, might be in the city's best interest to purchase this parcel of land to build a larger buffer and protect that inflow. It's not a buildable lot by any means, but it would nice to be sort of, I think, to preserve it and set it aside. We're very fortunate here that we don't have the water challenges that affect so much of the country, and anything we can do to have a stronger buffer to protect that inflow, I think, might be in the city's best interest going forward. The other segments with this, and once it's determined to be surplus property and goes through a surplus property process at the state level, the city has the right of first refusal on all of this property. So I think that I might be inclined to send this to committee to review both where this property is, what's unique about it, why we might be interested in all segments, all parcels within this tract. This has been appraised, you'll see on page 11 of the packet. I believe my 11 should be your 11 as well. The total value of the property has been appraised at $272,500. The water department has access to a grant in the amount of $90,000, which may be applicable to segment 5. So the grant is actually a little more than what's determined to be the value. And there's also a stretch of, and what number is it on the segments, Kirk? We have 1, 2.
So 4 is the one that we're looking for the water.
Yes.
And then there's a piece across the street as well, across Union Ave as well, that goes into wetlands area.
So segment 5, you might be able to see on page 2.
Could I just ask where this wetlands piece is?
But we're working on that right now, on
All right,
segment
I'm
5.
sorry, I apologize.
Segment 5, if I'm not mistaken, let me see if I can clarify that for you. Segment 5, which is valued at $55,000.
Got it.
Got it? Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, my fault.
$55,000. You know, the fact is, I don't think it's worth $55,000 because of the nature of the parcel. And there are, I will say, there are 4 private parties interested in these parcels. Not number 4, but the others. What I was thinking of doing is, if the city were to consider purchasing the tract in its entirety, using the grant money to offset the sale price of parcel 4, and then dividing among the 3 or 4 other interested parties, the balance of what the total purchase price is. There is an opportunity for us to make an offer, which would go before long-range planning at the state level. They'd have an opportunity to say yes or no, I guess. But I'd like to put it into a committee to just review this a little bit, see if maybe you're inclined to think along the same lines here. I'd like this transaction to take place and have it not cost the city anything, and we protect the inflow. And based on conversations with 3 other parcel owners, there is interest among them. It is 3, right? There's not a 4th, right?
3.
It's 3 parcel
Yep.
owners. Three individual parties are interested in purchasing.
Right.
And to some extent, we've shared how we might proceed if the council were so inclined. But I think it's a good investment on our part. I think it facilitates, cleans up something in regards to a storage facility that's belonged by Irwin, which has the tracks essentially running through, very close to it, which is most peculiar. If I'm not mistaken, Tom Boucher has an interest in the parcel behind his lot, so he gives him a little room to build a deck on the back, not to develop the land at all, but just to have a deck. And Spinnaker Cove is looking for a couple of parking spaces that they currently use anyway. So that's the extent, and some of this can probably be built into a deed as well if we decided that we were going to purchase it and convey it. So I'd like to send this to the Finance Committee for you all to consider, and maybe circle back with the city manager and the council when you've had a chance to take a look at it.
Can I ask what's unique about parcel 2? It seems set off from the others. Segment 2. On page 3 particularly, you'll see
As I see segment 2,
I just wondered why the odd coloring. I'm sorry, I asked the question.
Does this help?
Okay, thanks.
So that's.
it is a little, what's that?
It's parked behind T-Bone.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure. I think that's I believe that's the property behind T-Bones.
Yep,
And-
it
and-
is, it is.
Yep, down
I
the
see it now.
embankment, right in front of the marina.
There we go.
Thanks, Henry.
You. Yeah,
It also says that this piece is impacted by the natural gas pipeline, which could be why it's sort of shaded separately, that it
Oh.
has some other
yes.
infrastructure
Yep.
built into it.
Yep.
we have had a,
Don't dig there.
Don't dig there.
so if we were so inclined, the next steps would look something like sending a letter to Department of Transportation, the Railroad Bureau, and letting them know that we have a formal interest in it and that we might be determining what a proper offer would be from the city for everything.
Seemed to me we should do that now.
Yep.
Pending whatever finance may up with, we should express our interest before they sell it off on us.
Well, they can't, because we do have the right of first refusal, but crazier things have happened, and if you'd like to proceed that way, I'm happy to entertain a motion, if there's a second. So the motion would be to send a letter to the state of New Hampshire indicating that we are preparing an offer and are interested in purchasing the land. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there further discussion?
Just a procedural matter in terms of taking the vote. I think an indication that we have, don't we have to have a public hearing before we can
Right.
actually do the next part?
Yes.
Yep.
And I have brought this up in public session simply because we do possess the right of first refusal, so it's not like we're gonna get into a bidding battle with private entities that
That
would
makes
drag it
sense.
out. Okay, so we're okay, but certainly wanna make sure that this is done out in the open and there is an opportunity for the public to speak on this matter, but, you know, ideally, I don't want it to cost the city anything.
So I think we're expression of interest.
And I'll make a motion for a public hearing.
Well, let's finish the first
wait,
motion.
Yeah, don't layer us with motions, we
Oh,
get
come on.
confused. Okay, all right, so if there are any other comments on the motion, or questions on the motion that's on the council table right now? Seeing none, all those in favor? I'd ask the clerk to call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie? Counselor Littman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
That's 5 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes.
And I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing.
Is there a second on that? Schedule a public hearing on the purchase of the land, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion on this motion?
We have a date that you're contemplating, it just,
At our next meeting.
I think make sure, that so long as the Finance Committee has an
Right.
opportunity to,
Right.
might need just a little bit longer
So-
just on my schedule.
2 meetings from now.
second meeting of March?
Yep.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken, it's-
March
27th,
27th.
yeah.
27th.
27, yeah.
Okay, so looking to schedule a public hearing on this on March 27th, 2023 at the regular city council meeting. If there are no further questions or comments, all those in favor, please vote by poll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie? Counselor Littman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Thank you, council. I'd like to move along to item number 16, which is council comments. Counselor Felch.
Yeah, I'd like to let everybody know that the 15th annual Robbie Mills Pool Tournament's coming up. It's to benefit the Boys and Girls Club and the Children's Auction. It'll be held this Saturday at the Rod and Gun Club. Anybody that wants to stop by, would love to see you. If you wanted any information on it, it's on the robbiemills.org website.
Thank you, Counselor Felch. Are there council comments? Counselor Cheney.
I wanted to ask if it would be possible for you to instruct the city manager to review our rental, short-term rental ordinance, and come back to the council with some suggestions. I have received several constituents' concerns about short-term rentals and whether they were meeting the requirements of the city or whether the city's requirements were even enough. So I would ask that the manager and the planning director review and propose, if necessary, any changes to the council to our short-term rentals.
Thank you, Counselor Cheney. So see if this makes sense, that maybe he can prepare a report and maybe what opportunities to improve, and take it up with the Government Operations and Ordinances Committee.
That'd be fine.
Okay, which is Counselor Susie, Counselor Felch, Counselor Cheney. And then maybe circle back to the council as a whole.
Yep. Secondly, I wondered if we could get a report on the Elm Street School parking proposal, and where we're at in trying to fix that.
I can give you an update right now. We're at a point that we're still looking at the path. It needs to be surveyed. They went out, surveyed, they haven't been able to complete it. with snow cover and some other issues going on. They were having some issues finding one of the pins to get it. And while that's going on, they're still looking at if there's any grant availability and where the funding will come from. So we are still working. It'll most likely be closer to spring before we have everything completely organized and ready to go. But it is still being worked on.
I just, thank you for that. I just don't want it to fall through the cracks, because it's still a problem. So I believe the 51 Elm Street parking issue's on the agenda tonight, but the other thing that I was a bit concerned about is the historic district, which I haven't heard most recently about where we're at in this assigning downtown the parameters of the historic district. You're looking confused, Counselor.
Yeah, the only thing I can say, Counselor, is there's a meeting scheduled for tomorrow night, and that is on the agenda.
Okay. I didn't want it to slip through the cracks, because it's,
No,
thank you, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor.
Thank you. Counselor Cheney. Counselor Lippman, did you have comments?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We had talked about a prior meeting with respect to property valuations and being able to provide some ongoing data so people could get a sense of what's happening in terms of valuations. And I'm just asking if we could sort of formalize what that might look like in reporting, whether we'd post that on our website or what have you, somewhere, you know, where people can look up their property values. If we could, you know, record the sales or whatever that transpires, so people can kind of get a sense of what's going on and have some forecast where generally property values are going.
Yep, we can work on that. They certainly can see their own property values, but we can get it where they can compare with some from comparables to their like properties. And we have also talked with our assessing department about trying to earlier in the season, even though they're not going to be able to give this is exactly what your tax bill is going to be. This is where properties are trending, so you can see that if you own waterfront or rental property or whatever it might be, they'll be seeing earlier that what they're trending up or down for next year's valuations.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yes,
in
and
terms
yep, we are working on that.
Okay, just in terms of a sense of when that might be available and where people could find it is, you know, I don't need an answer right now, but
Okay.
that's.
Yeah, we can work on that.
If I might, in that same vein, Mr. Mayor, I'm hoping we can look at, I understand appraisals and all that other stuff, but people who get whacked $7,000 to $10,000 increases in 1 year seems hard for me to, I mean, I don't know what I'd do if that happened to me, and I wonder if we can find some way to buffer that or spread it out a little bit. I don't know, maybe it's not legal to do that, but if there's anything at all we can do, I'd like the manager to look into it and see if there's any way we can.
Soften the blows, take the
Yeah,
sting
yeah.
out of a tax shock, so to
Yeah.
speak, right?
I mean, $10,000, and the calls that I've gotten, 2 of the probably 5 or 6, said, you know, it's not that I can't afford to pay it, it's just so sudden. It just doesn't seem fair, and I tend to agree with that. I mean, I might be able to pay that, but it would hurt, and I'm sure it hurts a lot of those folks. So, anyways, if we could,
I think Counselor Cheney raises a good point, but I want to let you know he has spoken twice before you either have had an opportunity to speak once. So he raises a good point, but how about on this side? Anybody have any council comments?
I would just briefly, I know it was late in the meeting, the last meeting, but I do want to personally thank the Finance Committee and you, Councilor Lippman, navigating that Winnipesaukee River Basin as far as it had to do with the sewer charge. It was a stroke of genius because I was adamant that we cannot continue these. I know that the Winnipesaukee River Basin, all this was coming due, but in due respect, we could not keep passing on outrageous increases to our enterprise funds. So I personally want to thank you.
team effort, really.
I understand.
Counselor
But it was
Lippman does
led
good
by
work.
you, Henry.
He does good work, Counselor Lippman does. Anyone, any other, how about liaison reports? Okay. We're moving on to item number 19 on the agenda, citizens request to comment on current agenda items. If you're here to speak to,
I think Councilor Susie might have been raising his hand.
I didn't see it. Sorry. All right, anyway, on to 19, citizens request to comment on current agenda items. If there's an agenda item that you're tracking and would like to speak to it, now would be the appropriate time. Don't be bashful. Okay. Let's move right along to item number 20 on the agenda, which is the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try to keep this quick as all these others have been moving. We talked last month about the road program being sent out to bid. That bid got bumped a little bit, as the contractors were asking some questions and they needed time to package up those answers, so that will be bumped out a little bit. You can see in the list there, it's, some of the roads that are being, prepped for this package, Summer Street, Pargus, Elm, and some others that are listed there, so those should all be bid pretty soon, and, we'll get some answers back. The Winnipesaukee River Basin Program, I think we've talked about that quite a bit as we have sewer collection systems, and where that moved forward as Councilor Haynes just discussed. That's your projects update. For the monthly economic development report,
Take a pause for 1 second
Sure.
for a question for
Yep.
Counselor Lippman.
Wares Beach restoration, just want to surface in terms of getting moving something so we can get an update that's been stalled for a while. Again, not expecting something tonight.
yeah, right, no, I can get, yep, I can get an update on that. We haven't had an update on that in quite a while, so I'll get an update, see where that stands.
Go ahead.
All right. The monthly economic development report is relatively unchanged. Unemployment rate is staying at 2.8%, which is not a whole lot different than what we've seen recently. And on the second page, the CPI number has come down again, 7th straight month. We've seen a decrease at 6.4%. And as we talked about last time, you can see it ended at just over 8% last year. That is all I have.
Any questions to the city manager? Seeing none. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 21, which is new business. Resolution, agenda item 21A, resolution 2023-04, relative to the acceptance of the United States Department of Homeland Security Assistance to Firefighters grant. The amount of $28,571.42 for the purchase of battery-powered ventilation fans. The Laconia Fire Department applied for a grant from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security for replacement of the current ventilation fans on their staffed apparatus. The existing fans are, at a minimum, 15 years old and in need of replacement. These ventilation fans help to remove smoke and other gases from a building. This grant was included in the fiscal year 2022-23 anticipated grants resolution, Resolution 2022-08. A public hearing was held for grants listed in this resolution on June 13th, 2022. There is a local match required from the fire department budget in the amount of $1,428.58. This report was submitted by our fire chief, Tim Jubert, and is recommending the acceptance of this grant award as presented and to authorize the city manager to sign all related documents. So right now, I'll be looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2023-04 relative to the acceptance of the United States Department of Homeland Security Assistance to Firefighters grant in the amount of $28,571.42 for the purchase of a battery-powered ventilation fans and to authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this grant. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Felch. Any further discussion? Councilor
Just a question on the the existing fans, are the plan to take those out of service and sell them?
They will take the ones, because this won't replace all of them, so they'll take the ones that they can out of service. I don't think there'll be any monetary value for trying to sell them. I think they'll end up being scrapped.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie? Counselor Littman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
That's 5 votes in the affirmative. This motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 21B, resolution 2023-05, relative to the acceptance of the New Hampshire the acceptance of the New Hampshire Department of Safety Homeland Security grant in the amount of $43,000 for a full-scale active shooter exercise. The Laconia Police Department applied for a grant from the New Hampshire Department of Homeland Security to cover payroll and related expenses for a tabletop training exercise to be held March 15th, 2023. This tabletop training exercise is in preparation for a full-scale active shooter exercise scheduled to take place at Pleasant Street School on April 15th, 2023. Laconia Fire Department, as well as several other local agencies, will also be involved in the exercise. This grant was included in the fiscal year 2022-23 anticipated grants resolution, Resolution 2022-08. Public hearing was held for grants listed in this resolution on June 13th, 2022. There is no local match required for this. Right now, I'll be looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2023-05 relative to the acceptance of the New Hampshire Department of Safety Homeland Security grant in the amount of $43,000 for a full-scale active shooter exercise as presented, and to authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this grant. So made by Councilor Cheney, seconded by Councilor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes?
Counselor Susie? Counselor Littman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
It's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Item number 22A, Resolution 2023.
Missed one.
Did I?
21C.
Well, I'll be. Thank you, Katie. Yes, the Exotic Species Program. How could I overlook that?
Kirk's favorite.
Item 21C, acceptance of a 2023 New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Exotic Aquatic Plant Control Grant. That's a mouthful. The New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Exotic Species Program has notified us that the City of Laconia has been awarded a grant to fund 50% of project costs for aquatic plant control remediation. This project has been awarded in the past. New Hampshire DES works with the city departments to identify locations for plant control to be completed, hires contractors to complete work, and returns for post-remediation testing. The city's share of the grant is $42,530, which is 50% of the total. 40% of the total has been approved in the fiscal '23 budget. The remainder of the match will come from the administration's non-departmental budget. And staff recommends moving this grant acceptance to a public hearing on March 13th, 2023. So a series of 3 motions.
Mr. Mayor, if I could
Yeah.
just, so there's no confusion, I did put in that it would be non-departmental. Finance Director, we looked at some stuff earlier. We do actually have a milfoil rollover account, so
Yeah.
we won't be coming out of non-department debt, so it's no new monies. That'll be covering our portion of the.
Terrific. Thank you very much. So right now, a series of 3 motions. The first is to move to waive a reading of the resolution 2023-06 in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Councilor Haynes, seconded by Councilor Cheney. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll. City Clerk?
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie? Counselor Littman,
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Looking for a second motion to move a first reading of Resolution 2023-06 relative to the acceptance of the 2023 New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Exotic Aquatic Plant Control Grant in the amount of $42,530. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney.
Yes?
Counselor Susie. Counselor Littman.
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. And finally, looking to move to schedule a public hearing on March 13th, 2023, during the regular council meeting to gather public input prior to adoption of Resolution 2023-06. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney.
Yes?
Counselor Susie. Counselor Littman.
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes.
Okay.
Right,
Thought I'd
moving
done
along to
something
item
wrong.
number 22, under unfinished business. This is the Resolution 2023-02, request to submit a grant application and accept grant funding from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund for Wastewater and Stormwater Asset Management. Kirk, could you lead us through this, just a 10,000-foot view, please?
Sure. This is a planning grant that New Hampshire DES has awarded the city. So they will review our wastewater, stormwater management, our assets and plans. It is strictly a planning grant to make sure that we're in the right direction and doing what we are supposed to do, and what our future goals should be to take care of this program. So it's a $90,000 grant. There's no match to the city, and they'll be working with our Public Works Department to get this taken care of, and it'll moves relatively quickly. It'll be done by the end of the summer.
Okay. Before we go into motions, anyone have any questions for the city manager on this? All right, so let's move along. A series of 3 motions. Looking for a motion to move to waive a reading of the Resolution 2023-02 in its entirety and to read by title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney.
Yes?
Counselor Susie. Counselor Littman.
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Second motion, looking to move a second reading of Resolution 2023-02 relative to authorizing application and acceptance of $90,000 grant funding from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund for Wastewater, Stormwater Asset Management. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney.
Yes?
Counselor Susie. Counselor Littman.
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. And finally, on this agenda item, looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2023-02 relative to authorizing application and acceptance of $90,000 grant funding from Clean Water State Revolving Fund for Wastewater and Stormwater Asset Management, and to authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this grant. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney.
Yes?
Counselor Susie. Counselor Littman.
Yes.
Counselor Haynes.
Yes.
Counselor Felch.
Yes.
That's 5 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes as well. Moving on to agenda item number 22B, Resolution 2023-03 relative to the acceptance of the New Hampshire Department of Safety, Homeland Security, and Emergency Management Grant in the amount of $20,948.28. The New Hampshire Homeland Security and Emergency Management Grant in said amount will fund the purchase of 4 sets of night vision devices to be used in search and rescue operations by the Belknap County SWAT team. The February 13th, 2023 City Council meeting, a motion was approved to schedule a public hearing in this matter. Public hearing was held a little earlier this evening. There is no fiscal impact to the city. The entire cost of purchasing the 4 sets of night vision devices is covered by the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Grant. So, there are a series of 3 motions here. First one is to move a waive reading of Resolution 2023-03 in its entirety and to read by title only. You can at least let me finish it. I'm teasing you. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie? Counselor Littman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. Looking for a second motion to move a second reading of Resolution 2023-03 relative to the acceptance of the New Hampshire Department of Safety Homeland Security Grant in the amount of $20,948.28 to fund the purchase of 4 sets of night vision devices to be used in search and rescue operations by the Belknap County SWAT team. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Felch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie? Counselor Littman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yes.
5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. And finally, on this agenda item, looking to move to approve Resolution 2023-03 relative to the acceptance of the New Hampshire Department of Safety Homeland Security Grant in the amount of $20,948.28 to fund the purchase of 4 sets of night vision devices to be used in search and rescue operations by the Belknap County SWAT team, and to authorize the city manager to sign all documents related to this grant. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Yes.
Counselor Susie? Counselor Littman?
Yes.
Counselor Haynes?
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yep.
Okay, that's 5 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. And on our last agenda item, under unfinished business, agenda item 22C, which is granting an easement on city land. Since Dean is not with us right now, Kirk, would you be so kind as to?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. This is still what we've been working on with the 90-unit property down on Province Street, the proposed affordable housing project. They needed, as we've talked about in the past, they need an easement through our property out onto Growth Road. That was grant-funded property through the Land and Water Conservation Fund. We have been working with the state who manages that grant for the federal government to try to find out how we can grant this easement. We've had great success talking with the Parks Department, but unfortunately, there's no easy answer to this. I've been keeping their the property buildings council apprised of what's going on. I keep it on the agenda because Amy and I have been the director and I have been working on trying to get this moved along, and hopefully we can get this done soon. I don't know if we can. It's something we're working hard on to try to get this taken care of, but there's no simple solution. So that's how we're working right now.
So are we keeping it on the table? Or are we taking it off the table and voting?
There's nothing to vote on tonight.
Okay.
I need to keep it on the agenda just because if there's any last minute things that come up and we're able to bring it forward, I don't want to not have it on the agenda.
Stays on the table then. All right. So unless there's something I've overlooked, Katie,
Yeah.
and if there are no other comments this evening, I'd like to adjourn the Laconia City Council meeting of February 27, 2023 at 7:51 PM.